speaking of getting together with folks and meeting, I understand that you, Governor, have been meeting every other week with House and Senate leaders, which is a break from past governors. Can you tell us why you decided to conduct these biweekly meetings?
Well, it's a couple things. One thing that I did learn as chief, as in my former role as a legislator, is that legislating policy and the role of the legislature is really specific to setting policy and passing law. Implementing is probably as important to the state of Hawaii getting full benefit of the laws and policies that we set. And so, I'm committed to establishing better relationships and more dialogue between the executive and the legislature, because I understand and I have been disappointed as a legislator in seeing how the executive had implemented lots of programs and policies that we passed. So I'm really committed to defining our future together, being certain that I can understand really what the vision and perspective that the legislature has in enacting any law, so that I can do a better job as chief executive of fulfilling the hopes and dreams that the legislature had enacted.
Someone told me that dealing with the Senate 25 members and the House 51 members is a lot like trying to herd cats. How do you juxtapose the policy issues that you want to get across with what those folks want to pass the legislature?
I do know that it's the product of the legislature is really a collaborative effort of all 76 legislators as well as the executive. I've asked my cabinet members to really be engaged with the legislators. First and foremost, it's about putting the public interest in all of the proposals that are made. Second is really about thinking about good policy and not get distracted, to focus on the specific issues at hand and trying to get access to the data and information that we need to make the best decisions, and then really helping to facilitate arriving at consensus so we can move the state forward.
And it's not the most exciting thing to talk about, but you have been a person that sides on the side of fiscal responsibility during your career in the legislature. And in your State of the State address, you mentioned one simple line that really stood out to me, and that's that the state is spending more than it takes in. How concerned should Hawaii residents be about that one line in your speech?
Well, I think we all need to be concerned, and that's one of the reasons why we have been careful about funding requests to the legislature. We have been focused on, in our budget, in making strategic investments in shoring up the safety net of our community and providing dollars that are needed for those most in need. And then really, I think the best future that we can design together is having a vibrant economy that's creating jobs, quality jobs that will help us in a lot of different areas. And we have been focused in working with the legislature on those priorities.
When you get past this biennium budget, Governor, then the rubber really hits the road, and the state might have to make some tough choices on the revenue side or the program side. How do you see that playing out midway through your term?
Well, I think there are a couple things that we have been focused on. Maria Zielinski at the Department of Tax has really been focused on moving the tax modernization forward. She's hired a number of auditors and really focused on people who have not paid taxes already owed, so that we can really work the income side of that equation. And I am quite confident that once we finish the tax modernization program, it will result in more income to the state, because there are some who owe taxes today that are not paying their fair share. The other part that I talked about in State of the State is really pursuing federal dollars in a big way. This trip to Washington, D.C. allowed me to meet with 7 or 8 department secretaries to talk about Hawaii and what's unique about Hawaii, and then talk about the fact that I'm truly committed as governor to identify all of the federal funds that we're entitled to, and asking and working with the state agencies and connecting to our federal counterparts to make sure that we can draw down the maximum federal funds that the state of Hawaii is entitled to. And I can just give you one example, just meeting with Secretary of HUD up in D.C. We have allocated $58 million for Native Hawaiian housing and rental assistance programs that we could make available to the Hawaiian Homelands Program. And I have been talking with the director and trying to understand what the requirements of those federal programs are so that we can begin to draw that down. And $58 million is 2 years worth of what the state was putting in as general obligation bonds to that program. So I think that there would be significant benefit if we could draw down and access those federal funds.
And Governor, you worked on some of these laws that the public worker unions gave concessions as far as new hires and the benefits that they receive. They no longer receive the golden umbrella benefits that they once used to receive if they hired after a certain date. But do you think that public worker unions, as the state faces the possibility of this fiscal cliff, need to come to the table and be more of a willing partner to help solve the state's financial and fiscal situation?
We have been talking and negotiating today with all of the public employee unions to arrive at contract agreements. We have emphasized again that we are spending more than we're taking in, and they are aware of that. And we also mentioned the unfunded liabilities of both the pension system and the health fund. And really, the response I get back from them is they do know that the state has to be a viable entity, or else, other jurisdictions have really thrown up their hands and gone into bankruptcy as a way to get out of those earned benefits that those retirees have come to. And so I think that there is mutual agreement that the state has to be in a fiscal position that allows us to meet the commitments made to retirees previously. And we are working to get to a place where our economy is growing sufficiently that we have the resources to be able to protect those entitlements and earned benefits.
And I believe, Governor, you're committed to Act 268 that former Governor Neil Abercrombie signed, which essentially treats the unfunded liability like a mortgage and makes increasing payments every year for 30 years.
Yes.
Showing that to the unions, are they willing to make real sacrifices, seeing that the state is making a commitment to the unions and to fund that unfunded liability? How much of a sacrifice do you get a sense from the unions that they're willing to make?
We definitely are building it into our financial plan, and they understand that. As I meet with union members, they are fully aware of the cost of these benefits and the concern raised, especially as they watch other states and other cities really move into bankruptcy to get out of that obligation. So they have been more than willing. And I just would want to say this, over the last 5 years, Hawaii has made significant changes to the pension program because we all recognized that it was not sustainable. And we have increased the age at which people can retire. We've reduced benefits. We've asked the employee to pay a bigger portion of the cost of their retirement benefit. We have put a cap on any benefit enhancement until we can deal with the unfunded liability. In all of these areas, the unions have been participants and willing to make these changes because they see that the long-term viability and sustainability of the pension system is in their interest. So, a lot of these concerns about the health fund are exactly the same concerns that we have with the pension system.
And you are fully committed to Act 268?
Absolutely. It's the baseline of our financial plan. That's where we start. And any expenditures or any programs that are seeking resources have to come after we meet that commitment.